Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from Newslaundry.
Welcome to Newslaundry, Prayaag.
Thank you very much.
This is my second interview with you.
Yeah, I know. It's like a full circle. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first when your book was out, which was wonderful.
Thank you.
And now you've got a series.
Yeah, the book has a series, yeah.
Do you recognize it as connected to your book?
Do I? I mean,
It's
so
a tough call.
I knew going in that Netflix has the right. You know, they're creating a writing room that they will be changing the story. You know, I think that happens a lot in TV adaptations. I recognize the characters definitely. Shalini. I've only seen 3 episodes. I have not seen. I watched it on Monday. You know, so I haven't had a lot of time to process it. But it was. I definitely recognize the characters. I'm glad the heart of the story, which is Shalini looking for her daughter Leila. I'm glad that hasn't changed. You know, that's very much still.
If they changed that would be not Leila.
I know that it would not be
the core of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And more than that, the oppression, the regime that sort of captures everyone in the film.
Captures the state. Yeah.
And the state does, and tries to and controls them. Every move makes them think a certain way.
Yeah.
Where was that coming from? Is that a fear you see that can happen anywhere in the world, or is it something that you had seen while growing up, while studying some other, like the Soviet Union, where people were reporting on each other before Glasnost and Perestroika?
I mean, East Germany, there was all of that. Actually, the idea from of the children, of working with the children. There was that Romanian guy, Ceausescu, I think his name was, the dictator.
Yeah.
I think he used to take away children. He used to take away children from their families. Hitler did it too? Oh wow! But he would separate, Romanian sort of like citizens, like their citizens. He just separate them from their children and raise them in the state. And
Hitler was doing that to create the perfect Aryan child.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it was so disturbing because they failed miserably at it. These were shoddy institutions, didn't teach. A lot of these kids had to go through sexual violence, and and they have a whole generation of kind of drug addicted people, and people who badly can't work and all of that because this is the long-term impact of a policy, a failed policy like that, for like a 5-year policy 50 years ago, would create these ramifications. And I remember reading about that at some point, and I think that might have fed into the book. All sorts of things. This is what when I was writing, you try and draw influence. You read about other stuff. You try and draw in influences. You try and understand what an imagined world would look like in this. What this kind of place I was imagining would end up like if this kind of state had been captured by these people, then what would the things that they want to do?
Well, there was a story done by a journalist about small children being taken from their families in Assam and taken to a place in Punjab where ostensibly for their education, but the education included a lot of political agenda in it. And we live in a state where I would not like to say openly which organization did it, because we do live...
I know the story.
I have to admit that we do live in a certain amount of fear, which is palatable in this country for many people who are afraid to say the truth or say what they feel for fear of repercussions. And you see it in business. Businessmen will never speak up against the government. Journalists, where we have to make a choice every day that if I do this story, will I be targeted?
Right.
Easier for single people who can just say, let them target me, I stand for my journalism. But when you have a family, you also have to consider how it will impact them, because obviously they haven't signed up for your kind of journalism. And there are many other professions where you become a target. Was that playing on your mind when you wrote the book?
Well, at that time I didn't have a family. I mean, I didn't have a child. It wasn't something I actively thought about, I think, because for me, I was not writing about any kind of contemporary politics. I was writing about clearly like an imagined society. And I was writing about, it wasn't about a particular ideology. The book is not about any particular religious group. It's not about a particular ideology. It's about a coalition of these elite forces. I think I might have told you this before, but the starting point of the book was, when, do you remember this very famous photograph that was on the front page of the Times of India when they overturned the 377 verdict, the section 377? There was this photo of this imam and this, archbishop or something or whatever, and a Hindu pandit, and they were all like standing triumphant outside court, like holding hands like this, And for me, that was a dystopian image, That was like these three guys who will never sit in the same room or be in the same photograph, will argue constantly, coming together, coalescing, and then just so they can impinge on personal freedoms. What should be a very personal freedom? Who I love, who I want to be with. These guys were all like, no, this is not our culture. And the Muslim guy was like, the Imam was like, oh, this is not Muslim culture or something like that. And I was like, no, the Muslim community does not want this and all, this thing. I was like, who are you to speak to the Muslim community? I didn't nominate you. I didn't elect you to speak for all of us. Or, not even that I consider, I'm not the most religious person in the world, but it was, this man was claiming to speak for everyone, and the Hindu priest was claiming to speak for everyone, and the archbishop was claiming to speak for all the Christians. And I was like, who are these community elders? Who are these people who speak in the names of entire communities? And that was one of the starting points of the book. And then wanted to, dictate what should be personal choice. So when I started thinking about the book, I remember that image sort of playing in my mind a lot. And because it seemed like if these forces come together, like as they do in the book, Naz and they're all part of the council, right? This council that is there is that coming together is. It could create this kind of you might end up in a place where they are dictating these very personal choices that should be what should be personal choices, and so that's
so
kind of
pertinently 377 has been almost comical. So it was, it's okay to be gay, so everyone comes out of the closet. Then it's not okay to be gay.
I know.
Go back into the closet.
Can you imagine how?
And you go back into the closet, but it's too late now because there are landlords who are kicking you out.
Yeah,
people are losing jobs because you're an illegal.
Yeah. Your lifestyle is illegal. It has been deemed illegal. Yeah.
And then now it's legal now, so you go. So now you can come out again, but it's too late. So it's really chaotic in the sense that you're playing with people's lives.
Yeah, some court is deciding this, and it's really, to my mind, that can't be even a matter of the court shouldn't be talking about this. It's, this is very personal. This is very, this is not, I don't know, why should a judge be deciding this? I know judges have to decide a lot of things.
Chief Justice Indu Malhotra issued an apology to the gay community.
Right, I remember that. That you have to endure that. It's really horrendous. Imagine being told that after that moment of celebration and feeling that your country is there for you, and that really for there for for your for this sexuality or whatever it is and then suddenly being like, no, it's not. It's people are actually actively against this. There's a lot of.
So basically, that is also your book is seriously about freedom.
Yeah.
To choose, freedom to live the way you want to. It's also about a class difference.
Yes, very much so.
And frighteningly so sometimes, because you start feeling as a privileged person from a privileged class, you start feeling guilty and aware of all the things one may have done which are oppressive or nasty or mean to somebody who works for you or whatever. A lot of that comes up in your book as well as in the series. Of course, Deepa has put her own twist in, and I asked her about it just now before interviewing you, was she makes the maid sip
the wine,
a glass of wine, and in Fire, the guy who's serving the tea spits in it before giving. So that's a little sort of thing. But there is also this issue of class,
very much so,
very much so, and we are extremely class conscious as much as they are in England, if not more, because we have an added thing of caste. So when you were writing the book, and now that you see it in the series, do you think that has been adequately covered?
Well, I haven't seen enough of the series I honestly, the first time I saw it was on Monday, right before my flight. It was all very rushed.
Do you think they're not showing it to you because they are afraid that you might object to something?
I have no idea. No.
They obviously don't know you.
Exactly. I'm not going to that. But I mean, they had the choice if they wanted to, sort of involve me in the writing process, as in a consultant role. But they decided to not involve me. I didn't see any scripts or anything. They decided not to involve me. And, you know, as a writer, you come to terms with that. You have to come to terms with that. It's part of the contract. It's part of the, you know, I think it happens a lot to writers.
Well, it happened in Hollywood for, for decades, for centuries.
I mean, it happened to Arkin and Ryan with Guide, you know, like who am I? Like,
it happened to Tennessee Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened to so many.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the way it happens when you go to screen.
They say you have to just give up.
Yeah, you know, and I came to terms with that, and I was like, okay, this is now. So now what you see on screen is very much Urmi Juvikar, you know, who's the showrunner, who's the head of the writers' room. It's her sort of, you know, she's taken the world I created, but she's added a whole, you know, you watch the episodes, so you know that the story is entirely different, right? I mean, Shanta, my wife, was, when we watched the first episode, and, you know, it looks good, and she's like, yeah, it looks really nice, they've captured the world. But you know, there's not a scene from your book, and I was like, yeah, that's true. You know, there's not one, because, you know, Shalini is there and Riz is there, but there's no scenes from the book. You know, this thing, and I was like, yeah, that's true, and you know, that's just the way it is. I think this is the way television has there are different demands to telling stories on screen, and there, you know, like how you create emotion on page is very different from how you create emotion and action on screen. So, you know, I don't claim to know anything about screenwriting, so fine, they made their own choices. They made their choices very early in that. They were like, we're not, you know, like Urmi or whoever it was
Were
like,
you shocked?
when I watched it? There were parts definitely that surprised and disturbed me, certainly, yeah, in the episodes, because, you know, my story is very different in that sense. You know, it's not about anyway. But yeah, there were definitely parts that yeah, I was you know, unsettled. Let's say, yeah.
Which ones?
I mean,
the choices.
I really don't want to get into the show, because
choices
I'd like to talk about the book more than that. Yeah.
Okay. The choices that are made where the women are forced to make a choice. Did that bother you? Choice of ratting on someone or eliminating someone. Did that bother you?
I mean, I don't want to talk about individual. You know, these are all choices. This is like a team of writers. There was a whole writers' room. Then Deepa came in, and, you know, she has her own vision. She has her own wealth of experience and wealth of work. You know that. So these are all things that were done outside I had no knowledge of this, you know, so I don't know, and I don't want to comment definitely on individual, you know, things that happen in the show, because I had really nothing to do with it, you know, like it's not fair for me to talk about other people's work in that way.
But you're happy that it was made?
Yeah, of course, yeah, I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, good for you. Congratulations,
Thank you so much.
Akbar.
Thank you so much.
Many more books that will be made into wonderful series. Okay.
Last time.
Last time? Last time?
No, I'm joking.
Okay, all right.
I'm joking.
Next time you'll make it yourself.
Let's
Maybe.
see. Thanks so much.